He's the omnipotent, the omniscient, and the omnipresent God.
Yes.
Quickly I add, Hebrews 3:1, he is God's apostle. John 12:38, here we go. He is God's arm, and if he's God's arm, the extension of an arm is the hand, so he is the hand, the right hand of God. Matthew 12:18, he is God's beloved. Zechariah 3:8, he is God's branch. Acts 14:7, he is God's child. Psalms 22:20, he is God's darling. John 14, he is God's dwelling place. Isaiah 42:1, he is God's elect. Zechariah 13:7, he is God's fellow. In the book of Philippians, I've already referred to this, he is God's form. Hebrews 3, he is God's high priest. In Colossians 1, I've already referred to this, he is God's image. This is a good one. In John 3:16, he's the love of God. In Zechariah 13:7, he's God's man. In Romans 15:8, he is God's minister. In Revelation 3:14, he is God's person. In Acts 3:22, he is God's prophet. In Isaiah 8:14, he is God's sanctuary. In Ezekiel 34:24, he is God's servant. In Isaiah 7:14, he is God's sign. In Luke 1:35, he is God's son. In Matthew 26:61, he is God's temple. In Revelation 21:3, he is God's tabernacle. In Psalms 31:12, he is God's vessel.